Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the workshop. If everyone could try and get themselves seated, that would be great. We've got only 45 minutes and quite a lot to get through. So just by way of setting, my name's Carol Wallace. I'm an emeritus prof at University of Central Lancashire, and I've been asked by GFSI to lead this as a workshop on food safety culture, based around the position paper. So it is a workshop. We are asking for your input, and that's why we've been putting you on tables where we'd like some discussion from you that will help the GFSI going forwards. So I've just got a few slides just for the first 10 minutes, and then we'll go into some discussion activities. So what we're going to do is an introduction with a little bit of background on the position paper, a little bit of update on what's been going on in the food safety culture space since the paper was published, and then most of the time we're going to be workshopping and discussing what we think in order to take the position paper forward. So a little bit about me. They asked me to give a bit of background first of all. As I said, I'm emeritus prof at University of Central Lancashire, and I also work as a consultant. For those of you who don't know me, my background in food safety is over 40 years experience in both industry and in academia. And the reason I'm here is that I've been a researcher both in HACCP effectiveness for some time and also in food safety culture. Background in food safety culture, I've supervised 4 PhDs, I've examined 7 PhDs in this subject area, and I was the founding chair of the Academic Food Safety Culture Network known as SALIS. So I'm author of several books in the food safety field, as you can see, in multiple languages, and also many papers in both HACCP and food safety culture. And those are just a few examples of some of the things I've been involved in. But that's enough about me. Today, our workshop is about the food safety culture position paper from GFSI. And many of you will know the position paper well. I've just got a copy here. I'm sure everyone in the room has read this. Really useful document. And that was actually published back in 2018, but the history goes back a little bit before that. It was back in 2015 that the GFSI board decided that a working group was needed to look at this topic and to come up with a decision paper. And if you think about things back in history, back in 2015, it's only 10 years ago. But at that stage, food safety culture, it was still a relatively new concept. There wasn't a lot of guidance out there, and there was just this sort of gap. No one really knew what to do. And so the GFSI board decided that it would be a good idea for the industry to pull together a working group to try and set forward what the position was from GFSI's perspective. So they wanted a position paper. They also wanted benchmarking content so that could then be used when benchmarking standards. And they also asked for a voluntary measurement system at the start. So really what we're talking about is a blueprint for embedding and maintaining a positive food safety culture. And the paper was published, as I said, in 2018, really to give GFSI's position on what the organizational dimensions of food safety culture were, but also how strong food safety culture maturity can be developed and maintained. So everyone's got food safety culture, every business has a food safety culture. What we want is to push that towards a strong, more mature one. And the method that the working group used was that they used scientific analysis of what was there already, what was known about food safety culture, and the dimensions, the structure, if you like, there, that's on the right-hand side, were based on research on existing models of food safety culture or organizational culture and how they were being assessed at the time. So we have the position paper, we have those 5 dimensions there, and we've got critical components under each of those dimensions. And if you dip into the paper, we've also got some other things. So we've got guided questions in each of the dimensions. But we've also got, in some elements, but not in others, we've got maturity model suggestions, and we've also got what to look for in some dimensions, but not in all. So the paper's got some standardized work across the piece, and then in some dimensions there's more than others. And GFSI started to get some rumblings, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, that people were happy with some parts of this, but not so happy with other parts. So they did a survey, and they approached people from all the interested groups and asked a number of questions about the position paper and what people felt about it. And these are just some of the things that came back that GFSI felt really needed to be looked at. Obviously, there were also positive comments, but some of the key things that came out here were coming from different groups. So auditors were saying, well, there's actually overreach here. GFSI is going beyond what they should be doing, but there are no clear auditable criteria here. So there's nothing tangible that we can work from. Food business operators said, well, this is another burden to us, another theoretical burden to look at food safety culture now, but we don't know what the return on investment will be when they started looking at it. And they needed a framework that they could work with without hiring expensive consultants to do it for them. Academics were asked. I have to say I was not asked. But the people that were asked, one of the things that came out was it was felt to be a bit shallow. It was perhaps a bit weak in places. They were feeling it should have gone into, or the background should have gone into other behavioral science areas to really give a strong foundation to the paper. Training providers, they said, well, there's no clear training approach here, and we need that. And then regulators, they felt also that GFSI had overstepped the mark somewhat, and they added confusion there. So it was implying that food safety culture can be certified, but the national authorities themselves were struggling with what they should be doing around food safety culture. So there's this feeling of overstepping there. And if we look at what's happened in terms of research published before and since 2018, and 2018, this is when the paper was published here, I think you can see that there's been a lot of information that has come out since. So these are just research articles. If we go into what's published in industry and guidance and so on, there's a lot more than this. But before 2018, there have been 45 research articles. Since 2018, there's been 101, according to this just simple search on Scopus. So there's a lot more information out there, and if we want to keep current in what GFSI's position is, then it's logical that we should be looking at what research is telling us as well as what other documents are coming out. So these are some of the reasons that GFSI decided they'd like to start looking at the position again in food safety culture. So we're here in 2025. It's actually 10 years since the original working group started, and it's felt time to review. And that's why we're here this morning, because we want your help, we want your input into this, and that's why my colleagues have been trying to get people to sit in certain places, because we're trying to get some discussion going. And what we're going to do, and I'll just put up in a minute what the different groups are going to be looking at, but we really want a rich discussion from you. We want all your ideas, and there will be a facilitator working with each group as well, just to help capture everything with you. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for about the next 30 minutes, and we'll collect everything in at the end. We don't think we've got time to do reporting back just because it's such a short session and we're going to be thrown out the door at 1:15. So it's really about the discussion here and your thoughts to help us shape the way forward with this. So then, the working groups, and I'm not sure exactly where you are, but we wanted the working groups to address some of the things that came out from the survey, but also some of the things that GFSI has been told that are needed to try and get the right scope and the right structure for what we say about food safety culture here. So group one, who I think are over on this side, are going to be looking at scope creep, this issue that GFSI might have gone beyond its remit. So what should be the scope of a GFSI position paper in food safety culture? And also, what should it not be? So is there anything in there you don't think should be there? Are there other things that should be there? What should the position paper look like? And then the other groups, we want to look at aspects of the assessment side. So having got a position paper, what do we do for the industry? So we're talking about the auditors here, both within the third-party audit businesses, but also perhaps internal audits within businesses. So group two, who I think are over here, are going to be looking at what does assessing food safety culture look like? What elements should be assessed? And you might be getting at some of the issues around dimensions and so on, but what should be assessed if we want to know what food safety culture looks like. Group three are going to be looking at how you actually do that, and I think group three are probably here, thank you. So how do you assess food safety culture requirements? And practically speaking, we're talking about here, so what can you assess as part of a certification? What is there that you can be looking at? Group four, I'm not sure where you are. Oh, here, sorry. You're going to be looking at the tools that assessors need to be able to assess food safety culture effectively. And that might be within their businesses. It might be other support that they need as well to be able to do this effectively. And then finally, group five, last but not least, definitely, you're going to be looking at consistency and fairness of application across global audit settings. We've heard quite a lot yesterday about issues in different areas of the world and the complexity of doing things. But we need guidance on how do we actually ensure that fairness and consistency of application across global settings as well. So that's what the task is for the next half hour. And you will all have flip charts for all the groups, there's Post-its, so please do get your ideas down, have a great discussion. I'm going to come around the tables, but we have got a facilitator with each group, so if I ask them to make themselves known to all the group members, and we'll kick off. Okay, so thank you. I'm sure we're going to have some great input from you. Thanks. I'll leave that up for now so that you can see what everyone's looking at. Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. I know that there's been lots of great discussion, but we've got less than 2 minutes before we're chucked out of this room. So can I ask that the facilitators could make sure that the group number is on the flip charts, and that any other pieces of paper that have been written on that people are giving ideas, make sure that we collect those with the flip charts. I just wanted to finish off with one slide just to tell you a little bit about the the next steps, because this has very much been a discussion, and we really appreciate your input. And I'm sorry if some of you can't see very well because of the placement of flip charts, but we'll get that moved. But we wanted this input because it's going to feed into the discussions at GFSI on the necessary next steps. So we're going to collate the information that you've kindly shared, that we've got on the flip charts and all the bits of the post-its and so on. We'll pull that together into a summary, and what we said is that we will share that with all the participants that are here today. So that's why we needed to have lists and know who everyone was that was here. So you'll get the summary from all the tables, and then that's going to feed into the GFSI to talk about next steps. So what they'll be looking at is what needs to happen in terms of the position paper, where does it need to be updated, and so on. And there may well be additional consultation about that. Also, the benchmarking requirements, because obviously we do have some information in the benchmarking requirements currently on food safety culture. And I think that will go together with the paper. If there's any updates, then there'll be updates to the other. And so there may be other things that will happen as well, depending on the feedback we're getting. Possibly if the position paper is updated, it might look a bit different. It might be a slimmed down version that really puts out the GFSI position in terms of the necessary criteria. We don't know till we've collated all this feedback and got additional feedback from other groups who weren't able to be here today. So the GFSI team will be updating on this in due course, but it's going to be a work in progress for a while to decide on the next steps and then get that moving forward. As you saw, it took just under 3 years, I think, to get the initial position paper developed. So any update and review is obviously going to take time again. So I want to finish by thanking you very much for your input today. I know it's a lot to ask you to come at 7:30 in the morning and to sit and discuss and put your ideas on the table. So we really appreciate your input. Thank you for that. And I hope you have a great day and rest of the conference. Thank you very much.